we really need to accept that the art and the cultural sector in the Western world is the institutionalization of colonialism par excellence. So how can utopia or art utopia exist without unlearning imperialism and tackling imperialism in our cultural sector, first of all? So museums have become an important part in showcasing imperial power, national significance. They are spaces where antiquities, ethnographic materials, prints, and numerous other items from across the world are kept, especially in the Western world. Over time, they become instrumental in championing the Orientalist belief that the objects stolen from the communities considered as other would be best taken care of in the hands of the colonizers. When we look at the British Museum, for example, we know that it has come to represent a universal survey museum that unifies the diversity of the world's collection. Our cultural sector is based upon the imperial tradition of looting and destroying, and until we tackle this in our conversation for utopian futures, we wouldn't be able to achieve a systematic change in the way culture is operating right now. So I propose that instead of searching and coming up with a utopian future for the art and the culture, we divert our gaze and recognize the utopian possibilities inscribed in the looted objects displayed across our museums, and let that lead us. When imagining an art utopia, let's imagine a strike of museum workers that demand a counter-expedition of indigenous communities which stolen objects we are displaying to come and help the museum make a sense of its collection. Let's imagine these communities which bear the burden of the climate crisis demand climate justice and lead the conversation of what should be done, not only with these stolen objects, but what an art utopia would look like. We say that art is for everyone, but art hasn't been for everyone forever. As we need a green and just recovery for the cultural sector, we cannot achieve that without the cultural New Deal, in my opinion. Cultural equity and cultural justice are essential for climate and racial justice. So to make this system that oppress all of us, we need cultural equity, the condition that all people are fairly resourced in artistic and cultural expressions and fairly represented in system of exhibitions, performance, and decision-making, which will lead us to the redistribution of cultural power. We need space where culture is displayed without the involvement of the oily hands of climate criminals who are destroying the lives of the communities in the global south, while at the same time displaying these community stolen objects. For example, in our last action, we occupied the British Museum for 3 days against BP sponsorship and colonialism. BP's last sponsored exhibition before the lockdown with the British Museum was titled Troy and Myth and Reality, and exploring Asian site in modern day Turkey. As a Turkish person myself, I was outraged since BP's part owner of a controversial gas pipeline project in the region crossing the Kurdish territories. The pipeline has been racked by controversy from the Turkish government using its authority to limit Kurdish voices' involvement in the decision-making to inadequate repatriation of land seized from Kurds to make the way for the pipeline, or local activists being detained and beaten by the police. So this is just one prime example of greenwashing that the British Museum allows for BP's ongoing profiteering of a close collaboration with a repressive state as Turkey, while still sponsoring an exhibition displaying objects from regions, makes the case for the need of art utopia right now, and makes the case of trying to find the inscribed utopian possibilities in these looted objects. And I would like to end on that particular point that utopian futures are already here. Whether you look at movements such as Make Rojava Green Again, whether you look at Free West Papua campaign, the Senegalese anti-corruption campaign, or Rodney Keely's direct claim to Weagle shield displayed in the British Museum. So it's just time for us to demand these utopias become reality across borders. So thank you so much.
Imagine, demand, and build a world transformed.